Following the thread explores two very controversial subjects. First, we have the question of, can a man truly and to his core actually change? And if the answer to that is yes, people can change, then we have to wonder, are they still guilty of their past actions? Do they deserve to start over with a clean slate, or should they still pay for what they've done? The second topic is all about hired assassins. I've seen a lot of people defending and removing almost all the blame from the person holding the sword that takes a life, as long as they aren't the ones orchestrating the whole thing. Instead, all of the blame shifts towards the person seeking to hire a killer. So, these are two central aspects of this quest, and your stance on these two subjects will most likely greatly impact your final decision. I'll talk about all of that more in depth later in the video, as well as share my stance on these matters, but I think it's necessary to begin with a quick summary of the quest, of course, to fully understand the complexity surrounding Jad Karadin's situation, which also could be filled with lies, making everything even more complicated. So, welcome to Paradox of Gaming, and let's begin. The quest starts with a simple contract that can be found at a notice board in Novigrad. That contract leads Geralt to seek more information about reported deaths caused by a creature, which means that he needs to talk with the guard. Surprisingly, the guard tells Geralt to hurry because someone's already after the monster. So with haste, he goes to investigate a site where a man was killed, and Geralt concludes that the culprit is definitely a lesser vampire. Following the footsteps of the blood-sucking beast, he finally comes face to face with it, ready to collect the trophy and get his reward. Turns out, at most he'd get 50% of the reward because the other person pursuing the beast managed to find it before Geralt. Though I'm sure Geralt was not expecting that person to be none other than Lambert. With no time for discussion, they both team up and make quick work of the Ekimara. At that moment, the quest takes a completely new direction. Both Witchers head back to the guard to get their rewards, and they also get to meet with the supervisor to fetch what they're due. Lambert, clearly on edge, is shouting questions to the supervisor about a certain Jad Karadin. He's clearly not here only for the pay, and there's some information that he wants from that guy. Then the supervisor, whose name is Lund, refuses to give any answers and instead sends some guards after us, bringing the number of casualties resulting from Geralt and Lambert's little search to 3. Let's keep count of that number for some reason. With no guards left to defend him, Lund has no choice but to speak.
Karadin's disappeared, I swear. The others too. I only know of Vienne.
What about Vienne?
She drinks at the Seven Cats. There day and night.
See? You can be helpful.
So, we set out for the Seven Cats Inn with a Geralt that's still pretty much clueless about what's really going on. But that's about to change. Right before entering the inn, Lambert opens up and sheds some light on his motives. He had met Aidan, another Witcher, one from the cat school. They spent a lot of time working together, and by his own words, that Witcher was the best man he ever met. Aidan accepted a contract to help the cursed daughter of a duke. Sadly, his presence led to a political mess from the start, which was made even worse by the disdain that some of them held towards him because he was from the school of the cat, a school with a definitely tainted reputation. Regardless of his school, Lambert reinforces that Aidan was different. He was good, but he was also about to die. Not unlike the Witcher short story from the first Witcher book, some people were not fond of the idea of saving the Duke's daughter. They hired assassins to murder him, and they succeeded. Lund was one of the assassins, whereas Jad Karadin was actually the leader and the one to deliver the final blow. So everything now suddenly makes a lot of sense, and we got Lambert's version of the events. With that knowledge, it's now time to question Vienne. Fortunately, she agrees to speak rather easily, but she doesn't know much. And it's without saying that we could probably also question her mental abilities, but she does mention that Karadin is no longer part of the assassin group and isn't close to them anymore. Apparently, he has even changed a lot. Interestingly, when questioned about Aidan, she says that she doesn't remember him, and that's something worth keeping in mind for later. Other than that, she also mentions the name of the remaining members of the group, Celise, who's in Tredogor, and Hammond, who's in Skellige. Before leaving to pay a visit to the other members, the player has to choose Vienne's fate. She was a Scoia'tael, but after her unit was destroyed, she joined Karadin's band, and she then committed a probably pretty high number of crimes, only to find herself currently wasting her life drinking. I don't see why Geralt would interfere here. I think it's up to Lambert, and, this is his revenge to take. While I would want Geralt to step in if Lambert was about to lose his temper, I think that for this scenario in particular, giving him the choice is actually a fair approach. So, of course he kills her. And there's also 3 other elves who come to her defense, bringing the total of victims to 8. Geralt and Lambert then split up. Lambert will meet up with Celise, and we have to travel to Skellige to find Hammond. While searching for Hammond, I come across a camp of pirates, and they attack me, and yeah, that's about 15 more deaths. But they did mention that Hammond is praying near a shrine, so we know where to go. Unfortunately, when I get there, he's not exactly the cooperating type, so that's 5 more victims. On Hammond's body, we can find a letter written by Karadin. He's clearly providing an answer to Hammond concerning a business proposal, but Jad's answer makes it clear that he wants to cut ties completely and refuses to do more business with him. More importantly though, the letter mentions that there are plenty of business opportunities in Novigrad, hinting at the fact that he probably lives there. Unfortunately, it's almost impossible to verify the legitimacy of the letter. It's possible that Karadin sent it for the exact reason of trying to convince his pursuers that he's a changed man. But if it was fake, I can't believe that he would mention Novigrad at all, so I kind of want to think it's real. Alright, time to go back to Novigrad and see what Lambert has learned. Clearly, Lambert's research was a bit more fruitful than ours. His meeting with Celise provided him with 2 key pieces of information. First, Karadin is secretly trading slaves. It's not mentioned if it's a thing of the past or if it's recent, but it's in the present tense in the dialogue, so I'm gonna assume that he's either still doing it or he stopped very recently. The second thing he learned from Celise before killing her, of course, is where Karadin lives. We finally know where to find the man, and apparently he has even changed his name now and gradually became a rather respected trader and philanthropist under his new identity. Fortunately though, there won't be any more victims because Celise was the last one apart from the final choice with Karadin. I'm not saying that the people we killed were good people, of course most of them probably weren't, but let's just say that there was a lot of blood spilled to get to a single man, and it was definitely a somewhat pricey revenge. Alright, time to pay Karadin a visit, and funnily enough, when Geralt and Lambert arrive, he already expected them, and not only did he expect them, but he also lets them enter freely. I guess it shows that he's either really confident that he'll be able to convince them by talking, or maybe he's simply ready to face his past, turn the page once and for all, even if it means that he must die. Maybe if he knew about Lambert's short temper, he would have taken another approach, but in the context, it's clear that Geralt is going to be there to try to lower the tensions probably, and basically listen to what the man has to say. So he's finally in front of us, but he also has company. His wife and 2 children. Turns out, he's also a witcher. Cat's cool yet again. But yes, since witchers are sterile, they're not his children, even though he says he has embraced them as if they were his own. He then proceeds to talk about how he dreamed of changing his life and now aims to be the first Witcher to die in his bed. He keeps going, talks about how he's got a bunch of money, makes donations to various institutes, how he's been open about his past with his wife, how she prays for him every single day, and how it seems to be working. He then also emphasizes that the day they married each other, he started a completely new life. Then he's asked about Hayden. Clearly, he remembers him, just like many others, with great regret, he says. He goes on to talk about how there was something different about Hayden's case though. They didn't mean to kill him. Karadin's group were actually hired to collect the coin that Hayden got from the job. He was probably paid before doing anything. Then, Hayden supposedly messed up the job, the Duke's daughter died, and he didn't deserve a single coin anymore. Basically, they weren't approaching him as assassins, but rather as debt collectors, and unfortunately Hayden had already spent all the coins, so they asked for his swords. When he refused, Vienne lost her nerves, and she let loose a deadly arrow which killed the Witcher instantly. But then things get interesting, because he says that she, Vienne, later made up her own version of the story to silence her guilt. Thing is, we talked with her. She didn't share a new story, or anything. Rather, she just said she doesn't remember a thing. Given the uniqueness of the case, I bet she would remember. So maybe she lied to us, right? But it seemed to me like she had pretty loose lips and she ended up dying regardless. What's certain is that we didn't get to hear that different story that Karadin mentions. To me, it's almost as if he's aware that she died and he expected that she would have told us about how Karadin was the one to deliver the final blow, as Lambert also heard. Also, it's a bit unfortunate because we don't know where Lambert got his info, but it's clear that his source would be very, very wrong based on what Karadin described with the arrow. I'm gonna be honest, I think that Karadin is lying, maybe not about everything, but one red flag is definitely enough to make me doubt the whole thing now. Okay, it's decision time. To go back to the two controversial topics I mentioned earlier in the video, let's now play the devil's advocate and let's say that he's a completely changed man. He's now a caring father, makes his money cleanly, doesn't trade slaves, truly regrets his past, and aims to live a rightful life till his very last breath. Personally, I do believe that people can actually change. But even if it's the case with him, does it take away any of his guilt? Does it mean that the punishment should be lesser or even completely removed? I don't think so. The people that he has killed are permanent consequences of his actions. It doesn't matter how he is today. There are crimes that are forgivable, but to me, murder is not one of those. Even if his version of the encounter with Aiden was as he said, he's not even debating the fact that he killed multiple other people as an hired assassin before. For me, that concludes the discussion about his guilt. But wait a second, did he even commit murder? Or are hired assassins guilty at all? Well, I find the claim that hired assassins should deserve any degree of mercy to be quite ridiculous. I have not always had that stance necessarily, at least not so aggressively, but as I keep being confronted with similar situations in other games as well, I have developed a pretty strong position on that matter. A hired assassin is a murderer. Just because he has no motives of his own doesn't mean that killing people as a job is fine, even if at times the targets might be deserving of their fate. The final thing I want to mention before sharing my verdict is, what if we changed the roles? What if someone murdered in similar circumstances Regis, for example? Because I know Lambert is known to have some temper issues, but this is a serious situation. If Regis died to the hands of hired assassins, I have a feeling that Geralt would gladly chase them to get revenge for his good friend. And I said Regis here, but the hired Witcher could have been Geralt. I guess talking about these possible scenarios won't really change the end result for me, but they certainly made me think. So the four options we're met with at the end are: you've changed, your remorse, it's fake, too late to repent, or we'll leave you alone. If it's not obvious yet in my book, Jad Karadin absolutely deserves to die. So it leaves us with two options: your remorse, it's fake, or too late to repent. I think going for your remorse is fake isn't what I'd say, simply because I'm not 100% sure that it's actually the case. And even though he might still be trading slaves and he probably lied about Aiden's story, there's still a slim chance that he is genuinely a way better person now. On the contrary, too late to repent is a lot more in line with my closing thoughts. He's a murderer, killed a lot of people, and just did an incredible amount of harm to a lot of people. His feelings about that, or how he feels now today, matters very little. While it's definitely not Geralt's job to deliver the final blow, I think that Lambert deserves a friend that will allow him to deal with this situation however he pleases. Sure, we get the final choice, but I like how the dialogue plays out because it's exactly what I wanted to be said.
Maybe you've changed, maybe not. To me and Lambert, it doesn't matter.
You killed Aiden. Fuck your new life. I don't believe in giving second chances.
Do what you want, Lambert. Your friend, your vengeance.
Been waiting a long time for this.
And I don't aim to die.
Turns out Karadin was well prepared for a fight, sword, bombs, but what are you going to do against two of your kind?
Thanks for your help, Geralt.
You're welcome.
Want to talk about it?
No.
See you later. Someday.
That brings us to the conclusion. I really enjoyed this quest. I think that a lot of people will share my opinion on what Karadin's fate should be, but the quest definitely raises several ideas that are worth thinking about at the very least, and it's obviously always nice to spend some time with Lambert. Actually, I wish that we got to spend a bit more time with the other Witchers in the game overall, so I was definitely excited when I saw that Lambert was involved in the quest. Hopefully you learned something new in this video, or my opinion was interesting in some way. Make sure to tell me in the comments how you think Geralt should handle this situation, and if you're looking for similar videos to watch, I made another one with the same format for Gaetan, another Cat School Witcher. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and I'll be back soon with more videos. Bye bye.